Welcome back to the channel, guys. You all heard the saying, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. Now, in these markets we're in, you don't really feel like measuring it every day because the performance just looks bad across the board for pretty much all asset classes. But nevertheless, I think now it's more important than ever to track your income, track your expenses, and track all your investments. And we all think we kind of know what we're earning, what we're spending, and what we're investing. But the more income streams you start having over time, the more expenses you will have as you start adding a business, building a house, start a family. You're gonna have so many more expenses, plus all the various investments in stocks, ETFs, crypto, real estate, what have you. It's gonna be hard to keep a track in your head. If I ask you, what's your monthly saving rate? Or how has your net worth grown for the last 2 years? Would you be able to answer? Well, honestly, if you asked me that question a few months ago, I had no idea. And that's why I think it's so important to keep a track of that. And that's why today I want to share with you a tool that is free and helps you to track all of those components of your wealth. Well, actually looking at the last crypto prices, whatever is left of your wealth. But firstly, I gotta give a huge shout out to Humphrey Young, a fellow YouTuber and a big inspiration for me. And his last video definitely inspired me, and he actually created that sheet. So really thanks to him, and I'll share the same, and I will be using his because I think there's not much to improve. You can amend it as you see fit, but overall it's an amazing sheet to track your progress. So big shout out to him. He came up with it. I don't take any credit for that sheet. I'll just share something great that's already been working. So I put the link in the description to the Google Sheet down below. You may ask yourself, Kai, I don't like Excel or Google Sheets. I mean, this is just too difficult. It doesn't look great. Now I hear you. I also feel the same, and I actually prefer apps. And I have some apps, some for tracking income, some for expenses, and some for my investments. But there isn't really one app that brings it all together. At least I don't know. If you do, pop them in the comment. I'll be happy to check them out. But there isn't really one that kind of encompasses all your various incomes, expenses, and investments. So for now, we stick to the Google Sheet because yes, while it may not be super pretty, you can still do it on your phone on the go or on your desktop if you want to see the sort of big picture of how your wealth is developing. Right, so when you click on the link, you're going to be taken to this Google Sheet, and that's once again created by Humphrey Young. So you can use that, that's free to share. He made it available for everyone. So I'll leave it as is. So basically once you get it, you just have to go onto file and then make a copy, and then you save your own local copy onto your computer, and then you can start making any changes, tweaks, remove, add lines, columns, whatever you have to, but do that first and then you can make any iteration to it. So basically this is the main master sheet. I know it's not the most prettiest to look at, but really it does the job and really includes everything you need to kind of track your net worth and all the other things. So let's start off on the top left over here. You can basically have a summary by month of your income, your expenses, and the overall profit or loss. And I think that's really nice to have that at a glance. How was your last month or any of the months of the particular year? And all these sheets are basically for each year. Here you don't actually fill anything in. This is just a summary of the things we're about to fill in. So when we then move over to the right, this is basically what you'll be filling every single month. So here we start at the top with your income. And again, guys, this is similar to any business, any company. You have your income or your revenue, as it's called in the business. You have your expenses, that is your own personal expenses, or in a company, the company expenses. And in the end, you have any investments that may be happening. You pay your tax, and then you have the profit, right? Or the company worth. And over time, hopefully that will grow. That's the whole idea and why we're tracking this. As this was filled in by Humphrey, let's move into a new one, into the blank one. So you can basically see here a blank start, and once again you have the summary on the left here, and then you would basically say, okay, what's my income for January? So let's imagine you make, I don't know, let's say $4,000, and of course you can change your currency very easily. You just click over here on those numbers and then select, euro, dollar, what have you, custom currency if you want to select another one, and then you just change it for all the columns. Right, so most of us, if you have a salary job, then you're going to put your monthly salary in here, and most likely it's going to be for most of the upcoming months. Unless you get a raise, you will increase it. Other than that, you might have some side hustle, right? For me, it's YouTube. So I'll put my YouTube revenue over here. So let's say YouTube, I made $200, boom, you would put it there. Whatever it is, if you're selling t-shirts or anything else, you're just gonna pop it in there. And if it's only 2 lines or 1 line or 3 lines, it doesn't matter. In the end, it's gonna sum up the total. And as you will see, it immediately goes into the summary column over here. You're gonna have that amount. So even if I add another 300 over here, boom, it will be right there. And that's my second side hustle, whatever it will be. So it's really individual and it depends on you, what you have or what you don't have. Maybe you have none of the side hustles, that's totally fine. You just have your income. It really is very much adjustable to your specific situation. Then we need to, of course, deduct our expenses. So that's where the spending tracker comes in. So here, every month, you will kind of have to divide it by breakfast, lunch, dinner. You can also, if you don't divide or don't know how much you spend on each meal period, just put a total. So you could say, okay, I spent, let's say $600 for eating out, and you just remove those. that's totally fine as well. Or you leave them in and it sums it up. So let's say you spend 400 on breakfast, 200 on lunch and 400 on dinner. It will add it up immediately. And once again, you can see here in the expense column, it will pull up the expenses. You will see it's a bit bigger, but because we'll come to a few more expenses, but it will pull up the total number on the expenses and put it here. So far, we are at a profit of $154, but more expenses will come. Right, so you have your total eating out, and then of course we all have fuel prices, sadly, and they've been rising quite a bit. So depending on how much you drive, etc., this might be higher or lower. Let's just, for the sake of the exercise, say it's $300. You may have gold, you may not have gold. Again, if you don't have gold, you can either leave it blank or you can actually delete it and replace it with something else. If you play tennis, let's say, and you spend $100 a month, boom, it goes there as well. I guess you get the drift. You basically go through and add any of your monthly expenses that you have and put them in here so that you will have your total spending for that particular month. And that will be, again, carried through to your expense side. Now I know this process can be very manual and you don't want to be writing every single transaction down after you did it, right? You don't want to have a nice dinner with some friends, pay the bill, and then immediately have to open your Google Sheets to update. So what I do is basically I spend everything with my Curve card, where I get actually another 1% cash back, together with my Nexo card. So in total, I get 3% cash back on pretty much most transactions. And the good thing with Curve card, I actually have analytics. I would see in general how much I spend on health, on shopping, on groceries, on various categories that are pre-built into Curve card. And I can then, at the end of the month, kind of open the app and just fill that out. And that really makes it much easier than having to enter every single transaction, because that I don't need to know. I just want to know in total roughly how much I spent on gas, on fuel, on energy, on groceries, whatever, and that makes things so much easier. Then I really like that he added also large purchases. So here you would put anything that was extraordinary expenses. For example, in this case, he bought a gaming PC, right? You bought a new oven or something that you don't do on a monthly basis. You will put it here so you could make a note and update. So it's very easy. I would not write gaming PC into here because otherwise you have to add a lot of lines. So just leave it large purchases and then you put a comment. And then we have the fixed expenses. So these are usually things that reoccur every single month. We have the same outgoings. So I did another video on Notion where I put all my subscriptions in Notions to track them, which is great, right? But that's just one part of my expenses. So having all of this over here makes it much easier. So that's why I prefer tracking them in one global master sheet, so to say, than having an app for every single part of my overall spendings and incomes and investments. So here basically you put your health insurance, car insurance, gym, Spotify, Netflix if you have, let's say $15. So all of those are added up. So you can also see, okay, where can I reduce some fixed expenses and what can I remove from my large purchases, etc. So it's a very nice and simple overview to see how much you're spending and where it goes. And that you do for every single month. And honestly, once you get the hang of this, I mean, most of the fixed expenses, you're just gonna copy them from month to month to month. You know, if it was next month, I would basically just simply copy them over and boom, I would be done with it already. Unless I say, okay, I don't need Netflix anymore, I would cancel it online and just remove it and boom, I would save a bit of the fixed expenses. So it makes it easy as well. And then you have basically all your total expenses for the month, which is 4,400. So if I go back onto the overview, I can see over here, 4,400, which basically leaves me with a profit for $89 in this particular example. It's a theoretical example, obviously, but that's good to see I actually made money. So that means that money, I could then decide what to do with it. Most likely I would be investing it, unless I keep it in the bank for saving for a down payment, what have you. But good to know it was a profitable month, so to say. Another great thing I like about is this little table down here. So it shows you in case you have to pay any taxes on it. Depends if you input net or gross salary. So you may have to calculate and deduct it from the earnings as well. But let's say the earnings are after taxes. So you would have 4,500. So that means those are after taxes. And then you have the personal expenses summary over here, and in total you have a spending rate of 98% and 2% saving rate. And as you remember at the beginning of the video, I asked you what's your saving rate every month. Well, now you'll be able to answer that, and that is a summary of all the months. So the longer you go, it will basically add up your total income over your total expenses across the various months. So you could say after a year of income and spendings, how much is your saving rate? So that's the income and expense part done. Then we move to the investing part. And that's basically down here. If you scroll down further, you will see the various investing parts. So obviously starting with the bank. So here, whatever bank you have, you would add your holdings over there, right? Most likely your various cash holding accounts or saving accounts, whatever you have, you would just put them in here in order to track your net worth, because that should be part of your total net worth calculation. So in case you're cash rich and have a lot of cash in the bank to buy the dip, so you could add or delete certain lines. Let's say I don't have price pool app, I'll take it out. I don't have a second checking account. I have one checking account, one saving account, and that's the total. Again, you can amend those numbers as you see fit. And yeah, it would just update on the fly. Then in terms of investments, most of us probably have some kind of stock brokerage, some kind of crypto exchange. So you would be inputting the various asset holdings you have over here, your Vanguard, your Robinhood, whatever you have. Of course, I use Nexo, so I will put my Nexo account over here, which has a value of, let's say, 40,000. Oh, sorry, that was before the crash. Now it's more like 20,000. And once again, you can add or delete lines as you see fit or need in your particular case. That will bring the total invested plus the holdings at the bank. And here you can also, in case you have real estate, add your real estates. And obviously you can easily add another line if you so wish by inserting a row in there. So you can have multiple real estate lines in there. And then you basically just add the value that you bought or the current market value. And in this particular example, Humphrey actually took a 1% growth per month. Now that may depend on your area. I mean, right now in the part of Europe where I live, that's actually pretty true. So you can check how much it will be roughly for your neighborhood, but you can also leave it flat and just continue. But most likely over time, real estate will appreciate. So you might want to be on the conservative side and say 0.5%. So it's really up to you. So you can see the overall growth of the asset class over time. And lastly, there's the business line. In case you have businesses or you have maybe some equity invested in various businesses. So if you don't, you can delete that line, leave it empty, and this will bring you to your total net worth number. So that's important to kind of know where you stand, how you're doing. And ideally over time, this number should be increasing because yeah, I mean, we obviously invest and save money to grow our net worth over time to just get wealthier, right? That's the whole mission of investing. Otherwise, why are you really watching this channel? Ideally, this number should go up, and then it's up to you what you want to do with that net worth. And then if we go to the right, we come to the graphs. Now again, the graphs are not super fancy, but they do give a bit of a visual insight into how your net worth and your spendings are doing. Humphrey being a social media superstar, so you can see he tracks all his subscriptions across the various platforms, but you can replace this with any other KPI that you're tracking, your weight or the amount of times you went to the gym. You just put it for each month, and you can see over here how that trend line develops over time. And so it's a nice option to kind of visually track it. The same on your monthly spending. So what we inputted before in the first column, it would show up over here, and then over time you have a nice graph, if you start spending more or less, just to visualize things, which sometimes helps. The same with your monthly breakdown of your spendings. If you visually see that you spend 50% of your monthly income on eating out, you may want to start to think how you can start cutting back on this and maybe cook more at home, etc., to bring this number down. Because sometimes by not really facing the real truth, we think we're not really spending that much. We kind of justify it in our heads. But once we see it in black and white, it might actually surprise you. And then you can put actions in place how you want to bring that number down, if that is relevant to you. Because you may also say, listen, that's something I treat myself to and I want to spend on this. And that's totally fine, right? You are the creator of your own destiny, but just being aware of what you spend on, I think that's very important. And lastly, of course, a breakdown of discretionary, which is your ongoing spendings, the large purchases, and then your fixed spending. So that's basically your subscriptions and things that you have every single month, recurring costs. If we scroll down over here, you have basically the net worth over time. So just once again, in a visual representation. So ideally, that graph every single month would continue to grow. Now, let's be honest, we all have months where it goes down, especially in the times we're in right now. It, for me, dropped quite a bit, especially my investing part, which over the years has been a bigger part as I saved quite a bit. I put it into investing, but now since the market dropped, it goes down. But I know that a couple of years down the line, that graph will significantly increase. I know it's tough to get excited about a Google Sheet, but trust me, if you do this religiously every single month, at the end of the month, or ideally the first day of the new month, over time you will get a real x-ray of your financial situation and much better understand where you can optimize your income, where you can optimize certain expenses, and how you can invest better and over time grow your net worth in the process. The link is down in the description below. Once again, big thanks for Humphrey Young for an amazing resource he put out for free. And if you want to learn how you can specifically track all your investments, then check out the video over here where I'm going to run you through the various tools out there to better track your investments. And if you haven't already, please smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, really means the world to me. As always guys, stay healthy, get wealthy, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao!